day 1, I spawned in as a police officer. Well, I was actually just a rookie, and I was pretty small too. It's okay, I'll move up in no time. But where are all my other cop friends? Hello, is my partner around here? I was all alone, so I checked out my gear and realized I already had some handcuffs. Cool! Just then, I noticed some bandits nearby. They were around a cage full of citizens. I approached them, but before I knew it, they were attacking me. Hey, that's no way to treat an officer. What is going on here? Why is there so much crime? It's like the criminals are in control. I wanted to help the citizens, but I only had 5 hearts, and they were running low, fast. I hurried and ran away. I didn't feel good doing it, but I really needed to heal up before I could help anybody else. I found a small cave and made camp for the night. As I went to sleep, I wondered again where all the other cops were and why it seemed like all the criminals had taken over. On day 2, I woke up and got right down to business. If there were no other cops, then I'd have to take care of things myself. I chopped down some trees and gathered some wood to make a crafting table. With that, I was able to make a wooden sword, pickaxe, shovel, and some other simple tools. These aren't the best, but they will do for now. I went out exploring and found a small village. I looked around, but everyone seemed to be gone. I wonder where everyone went. Just then, I heard some noise from behind a fence. It was a teenage girl. Hey, it's okay, I can help. She looked a little frightened, but she eventually came out of her hiding place. What happened?
There were some bandits that attacked our village. They took everyone captive, including my family.
I think I saw them earlier. I'm so sorry. I'll do what I can to get your family back. She seemed happy to hear that.
I'm Izzy.
I'm Zozo. Hey, we should find a safe place to go. If I build us a safe house, would you want to stay there? She happily agreed. Before we left, we went through the houses to gather some supplies. I found some leather, coal, and some food. I also harvested what was left of the crops so we could make ourselves a garden. On day 3, Izzy and I started off into the forest. I found a section of land we liked and decided to build a base there. We started building and made ourselves some simple houses. Then I started a little garden with the seeds I had collected.
Thanks, Zozo. You're a good cop.
It is my job to serve and protect. Just then, a bunch of rats came out from behind some trees. Oh, gross, get away! I was sure glad I had my new sword, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to defeat them. After I took out the last rat, I felt a surge of power and I leveled up. Cool, I'm an actual officer now. I had a shiny new baton and everything. I even gained a few more hearts. On days 4 to 5, I went out to gather some more materials. I was able to mine some cobblestone to make some new tools. On my way back to the base, I saw some bandits nearby. They looked like the ones I had seen earlier, but they didn't have a cage this time. There were only a few of them, so I knew I could take them out. I charged at them and attacked with my baton. I managed to get some hits in, but I finally defeated them all. Nice! I noticed that one had dropped something, so I picked it up. It was a note that told the bandits where to go to capture more people. It was signed by someone named Jenkins. That must be who they are working for. I'll have to find out some more information about him later. I returned to the base and greeted Izzy. She seemed really happy to be in a safe place. Hopefully we could help others find refuge here too. On day 6 to 8, I crafted some new stuff from the supplies I had gathered. I made a furnace and then made a tunic and some boots, using the leather I had looted from the village. Yeah, I'm ready to take on anything now. Just then, I heard Izzy screaming outside. I rushed out and followed her voice. I found her by the waterside being attacked by some spiders. Get back, you nasties! With my baton, I was easily able to defeat all of them.
Thanks, Zozo.
No problem, just be careful in the future.
Will do. Hey, I have something for you.
Izzy threw me some flowers she had picked.
I picked these for you. I thought they could brighten up the base a little bit.
For sure. We went back to the base, and I went right ahead and planted some of the flowers. Izzy was right, it did give a little life to the place. Just don't go wandering off again. I can't protect you if you're too far away. She nodded. Here, I'll make you a sword, just in case. I went over to my crafting table and made Izzy a simple sword and some other tools.
Thanks, these are great.
She went outside to pick some flowers, this time closer to the base. She's a funny one. I just hope she doesn't get into trouble again. On days 9 to 10, I decided to go out and search for some new materials. And I wanted more information about Jenkins. I'm sure somebody knew something. I found another village that seemed abandoned. I started to gather up some crops when I heard a scream. I ran around the corner to see some bandits capturing people. I also noted one huge buff guy in a suit. That seems strange. I charged toward the bandits and took out a few. Then the man in the suit laughed. I charged at him, but he sidestepped me. He drew a large sword that seemed to glow red. He smacked me once and nearly took me out. I had to hide so he wouldn't destroy me. The bandits and the man left, taking the villagers with them. I felt so angry that I couldn't do anything. Then I noticed one of the bandits on the ground. I had hit him, but he was still alive. He was trying to crawl away. Hey, I hurried and handcuffed him. He struggled, but he was frozen in place. Where are you taking the people you're capturing? The bandit threw a potato at me. I was about to make my final swing with my baton when he started screaming.
Okay, I'll talk.
That's what I like to hear.
We work for Jenkins, the mob boss. We were taking the prisoners back to his compound.
Why is he capturing people?
He captures basically everyone he doesn't like. Only the lucky ones get to be his bandits.
Sure, lucky.
I was captured a long time ago, but Jenkins liked me, so now I work for him.
Why didn't you help people instead of capturing them?
Jenkins is too powerful. Anyone who tries to fight him is always beaten.
I could see why. That sword he had was different somehow. Really powerful too. But he couldn't keep taking people away. It wasn't right. I'm going to defeat him. The bandits seemed intrigued.
You really think you can take him on?
I wasn't entirely sure, but I knew somebody had to try. It's the right thing to do. The bandits seemed even more intrigued.
Can I join you?
I was a little suspicious of him, but I decided to let him come with me. If anything, he could give me some valuable information.
I'm Lionel.
I'm Officer Zozo. Nice to meet you. On days 11 through 12, I took Lionel's cuffs off and we headed back to the base. We started to work on a small house for him. He seemed really happy.
I haven't had my own house in so long. Jenkins just keeps us all in small bunks together. Thanks, Zozo.
Of course. Lionel actually seemed like a good guy. Maybe we would be friends after all. I introduced him to Izzy, and she seemed a little suspicious of him too. After a while though, she warmed up to him, especially after he offered to help her pick flowers. I decided the base was in good hands, so I went back to the cave to gather some more materials. As I went deeper, I noticed some skeletons were guarding a big deposit of iron. I could really use that. I charged toward the iron, but the skeletons had bows and arrows. Whoa, I didn't notice that. They all shot at me and depleted almost all of my health. I can't do this, I'm gonna die. I ran off and tried to heal for a minute. Oh, that was intense. I need some better weapons, but that iron is what I need to make a better sword. I went down a different tunnel and found a different iron deposit. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to craft a new sword. Perfect. I creeped back down the tunnel and charged the skeletons again. It was tricky, but I was finally able to defeat them all. They even dropped some nice bows, which I promptly looted. Thank goodness. I mined all the iron and took it back home with me. I was able to make some more tools and even some armor. Yeah, this is amazing. I then called it a day. On days 13 to 15, I woke up to Lionel knocking on my door. Hey Lionel, what's up?
Zozo, I need to tell you something about Jenkins.
We sat down.
I really want to be optimistic, but Jenkins is really powerful.
I know, Lionel, but I am getting stronger.
But you don't understand, Zozo. Jenkins isn't just a normal guy. He once was, but when he was younger, he was hungry for power. His father was the mob boss, but Jenkins wanted to be in charge. He made a blood oath to some supernatural force, and it gave him his red blinking sword. He destroyed his father as a sacrifice. Jenkins gained power over the people, but the sword gained power over him. It's basically alive and it feeds on people. That's why Jenkins keeps capturing people, to feed the sword and keep his power.
This was a lot to take in. I thought it was just a blinking sword. This was something I wasn't sure I could handle.
I wanted to tell you so you know what you're going up against.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Lionel left and I sat there for a while. I was way in over my head. On days 16 to 19, I woke up to Lionel yelling my name. I opened the door. What is it, Lionel?
It's Izzy. She's missing. But here, there's a note and a map.
I took the note and read it. Izzy had gone outside and been captured by some villagers. They told me that if I wanted her back, I would need to pay them in gold. They even drew us a little map to where we needed to go.
We don't have any gold.
It doesn't matter. We need to go get her. Come on, let's go. We headed out in the direction the map said and reached a desert. Soon, we made it to a small village. It looked like it was in ruins. Hello, we are here to get our friend back. We turned the corner and saw Izzy. She was in a cage and surrounded by a few villagers. One villager with a wooden crown and sword came forward.
Give us the gold and we won't hurt you.
We don't have any gold. Give us our friend.
No, if you don't give me my gold, then I'll take it from you.
The villager lunged and attacked me. He was a good fighter, but I was better. After just a minute, I managed to defeat him. I felt another surge of power, and I leveled up into a sergeant. Nice! Izzy ran towards us and cried happily.
Thanks for saving me. I won't wander outside at night ever again.
A young man stepped forward.
Are you really going to save us from Jenkins? That's what Izzy told us.
He has a powerful sword that I'm not sure I can go up against.
I know it could help. It's a legendary sword, dropped by a knight in a battle long ago. It's been lost somewhere in the desert.
That sparked a little hope in me. Maybe I could defeat Jenkins after all. Do you want to come live in our base? It'll be safer there. A few villagers wanted to stay in their homes, but the young man agreed.
I'm Nick.
Nice to meet you, Nick. I'm Sergeant Zozo. We gathered some supplies and then took off towards the base. On days 20 to 22, we arrived back at the base, but it was on fire. There were some zombies on fire too. What the heck? We hurried and defeated them and then put the fire out in the base. It looks like we have some work to do. Nick and Lionel helped me while Izzy went back in her house to rest. She had had a long day getting kidnapped and all. She deserved to sleep. We made some new improvements to the base, including a better fence, and started building a house for Nick. I was happy to have him around and looked forward to learning more about the sword he was talking about.
Hey Zozo, we should build a statue to let people know this is a safe place from Jenkins, and that you're gonna kick his bum.
That's a good idea, Lionel. We chatted about the statue with Nick and decided on something simple. Can you guess what it is? Also, hurry and hit subscribe so you can follow me on more adventures. On days 23 to 26, I was gathering some crops from our garden when a bunch of bees started attacking the base. Where did you come from? Everyone got their weapons and we managed to fight them off. As I hit the last one, it dropped something. I picked it up and it was some golden apples. Wow, these look amazing. I should probably save them for later though. I went up to chat with Lionel. Hey, I think it would be really helpful if we scouted Jenkins' base, just to see what we were up against.
I think that's a great idea. We just need to be careful. There are guards literally everywhere.
Nick and Izzy decided to stay behind and work on the statue while we headed out to the compound. It was a little bit of a journey, but when we arrived, I could see what Lionel meant. It was huge, and there were guards all over the place. Wow, you weren't kidding.
I know that there is a guard entrance in the back, but only the higher-ranking guards or bandits can open it. And Jenkins, of course.
Just then, we saw a bandit running towards us. We started to run away and thought we had lost him, when suddenly he popped out from behind a tree.
Lionel, brother, I knew that was you.
Luke?
I heard you were dead, but when I saw you from the tower, I knew I had to come and get you.
Luke drew his sword and went to attack me.
No, don't! This is my friend Zozo. He's going to help us defeat Jenkins.
Luke snorted.
Yeah, right.
He will. He's going to find the legendary sword of the night and defeat him.
Luke seemed skeptical. I know it might seem impossible, but I can do it. I'll free everyone, and you won't have to be a slave anymore. Luke looked convinced enough.
Okay, I'm in. I don't like the food there anyway.
Luke chatted with us about what had happened recently with Jenkins. He had been raiding more and more villages lately, hungry for power. We then made our way back to the base. Once we got back to the base, we cleared out an area and made a house for Luke as well. Even though him and Lionel were brothers, they wanted their own places. I didn't blame them. We also made some improvements to the base, including some towers and a higher fence.
Wow, this is actually pretty rad, Sarge.
Luke saluted me incorrectly. He was an odd one, but I was glad to be helping people get away from Jenkins. On days 27 to 31, I went to talk to Nick about the legendary sword. He was picking some flowers. Are those for Izzy? He seemed to blush a little bit.
Maybe.
Her favorite are the blue ones.
Hey, thanks.
He picked up some blue flowers while we chatted. So, the sword.
Yeah, so all I know is that it's buried somewhere deep in the desert. It's super powerful.
It sounded like a very interesting weapon. Jenkins needed to be stopped, and this seemed like the only way to do it. Let's go find that sword.
All right.
We stopped at the base so that Nick could give his flowers to Izzy. She seemed really happy about them and wished us good luck. We gathered some supplies and then headed out into the desert. It was so big and I had no idea where to start. Any idea where it could be?
Just somewhere in the desert.
We started digging around, looking for some significant formations. It was honestly just a lot of sand. Then out of nowhere, a bunch of snakes came slithering up to us. Nope, none of that. I drew my sword and started fighting them off, but there were too many, and they started biting me. We need to go, Nick. We ran away and made our way back to the base. We felt discouraged, but I would find the sword. I just knew it. On days 32 to 35, we traveled back to the base. On the way there, we ran into a traveling merchant.
Hello, lots of items for sale. Anything you could want, really. Name your price.
We aren't in need of items, but maybe you have some information. What do you know about the legendary sword that was lost in the desert? The merchant rifled through some items, looking for paper.
Yes, here it is. I once encountered a man who said it was buried in the furthest reaches of the desert, never to be found again.
Never?
Never!
He raised his arms dramatically and waved them around. I looked at Nick. This guy was a little bit wacky. Probably not the best source for information. Well, thanks. We'll be going now.
Not on my watch.
I turned around to see Jenkins with some of his guards. The merchant screamed and hid behind his camel.
Yeah, I've met you before. You're that annoying little rookie I swatted back in the village.
It's Sergeant Zozo to you. I drew my baton and attacked his guards. I easily took a few of them out, but then I saw Jenkins use his blinking red sword. I was in trouble now. He smacked me and I felt my health start to drop. I still wasn't even close to being strong enough to defeat him. Just then, I looked in the merchant's shulker and saw some TNT. Take this, Jenkins! I placed the TNT and blew up the sand around us. Come on, Nick, we gotta go!
Wait for me!
The merchant sprinted behind us, cradling an armful of items. We all ran off towards the base, leaving Jenkins in a sandy mess. On days 36 to 39, we all arrived at the base safely. The merchant looked exhausted.
Thank you for saving me. Jenkins would have had my head for sure.
Of course, we are glad to have found another friend with us.
I'm Caleb. Please, let me repay you for your kindness.
The merchant handed me a rock he was holding. Thanks.
It's my favorite rock. Take good care of it.
I pocketed the rock, thinking how odd this man was. But then we decided to help Caleb set up a little shop in the base so he could continue to sell his wares, whatever they may be.
I lost most of my items in the commotion, but this will do for now.
Anything else you need?
Actually, if you could gather some sand for me, I could make some glass bottles to store more items.
I decided it wasn't too much of a hassle, so I went to the desert and gathered some sand for Caleb. When I came back, he was very grateful.
Ah, yes, perfect. This will definitely help.
I then decided to do some work on the statue for a little while. It was looking pretty good, but it wasn't done quite yet. On days 40 to 43, I went out to mine some more materials to make some upgrades to the base. On my way there, I passed by a small group of travelers. They looked like farmers of some sort, but they must have thought I was working with Jenkins because they yelled and tried to run away when they saw me. Wait, I won't hurt you. I'm a police officer. They stopped running and approached me.
Oh, a young hero. Maybe you can help us.
Sure, what is it?
All of our animals were stolen by some hooligans in the forest. If you could go get them back for us, we'd be so grateful.
It seemed like an easy enough task. Sure, do you know where they are?
Yes, they live in an outpost next to the foot of the mountains. We don't dare get close because they have better weapons than us.
I'll help you. In the meantime, you can stay at my base. I pointed them in the right direction, and they headed that way. I went towards the mountain they mentioned, and before long, I saw the outpost. There were a bunch of animals all shoved into a pen nearby.
Looky here, boys. We've got a live one.
I drew my sword and charged the pillagers. There weren't many of them, and their weapons were very simple. I picked off a few of them easily, but their leader seemed a little more skilled. We exchanged a few more blows, but after a minute, I defeated him. All right, guys, let's get you back to your owners. I grabbed some leads from the house and wrangled up the animals. We were able to make it back to the base safely. When we got there, the farmers were overjoyed.
Thank you, Zozo. Please feel free to use as much wool and milk as you'd like.
Thanks. It'd be really good to have some more food sources, and the farmer seemed more than happy to stay with us. On days 44 to 49, I journeyed back to the desert where I'd gathered the sand for Caleb. I figured there could be some other useful materials nearby. When I got there, I noticed there was a sea turtle being attacked by a squid. Hey, you let him go! I jumped in and smacked the squid. He tried to maneuver back deeper into the water, but I was too fast. Before I knew it, the squid was defeated.
Thank you, sir. You are my hero.
The sea turtle nodded in appreciation. Of course, I am here to serve and protect everyone.
That's so good to hear. It's been so long since we've had a hero in this land. I remember when that knight promised to protect everyone, but he went bad.
This was new information. Bad how?
Do you not know the story?
Can't say that I do.
The knight was named Plebeius. He protected the king and his daughter, but he realized there were too many enemies, and he was only one man. So he prayed to a deity, begging for their help to protect his friends. They granted him the sword, and he named it Brink.
Brink?
Because everything was on the brink of destruction.
Okay, continue.
So he was gifted Brink and was told that it would always be his if his goals remained true and right to the kingdom. Time went on, and he was able to vanquish all of the king's enemies. But after a while, Plebeius became prideful and decided he wanted to show everyone how powerful he was. He challenged a man to a duel of strength, and he was defeated. The sword fell to the ground, but nobody was able to pick it up. Over time, the ground changed and it was buried within the earth.
So how would someone pick it up?
If your goals are true to the kingdom, or I guess now just the land, then you should be able to pick it up.
This was good information to have. Even if I did find the sword, would I be worthy enough to retrieve it? Thank you. You've been a lot of help.
Of course. Thank you.
And with that, the turtle swam off. I gathered some more materials while I thought about what he said. I really hope I can get that sword. It's our only option at this point. On days 50 to 53, I decided to go deeper into the desert to see if I could get any clues as to where the sword might be. While out looking around, I happened upon the group of snakes again. Hey, get out of my way! I had grown stronger since the last time I saw these danger noodles, so I was able to defeat them easily. If only I could defeat Jenkins that easily.
Did you say Jenkins?
I flipped around and saw an old backpacker standing nearby. Yeah, I did.
Good for nothing, scoundrel.
The man spit into the sand.
If you want to defeat him, you better get that sword I've heard so much about.
I'm trying to, I just have no idea where to find it. The backpacker pulled out a paper with a drawing on it. It looked like a hand reaching up.
I was told that the sword is buried deep underneath this rock formation. I haven't seen it in my travels, but maybe you'll find it.
Wow, thanks, this helps a lot.
Of course, you might want this too.
He handed me a bunch of diamonds. I can't take these away from you.
Sure you can. Just promise when you defeat Jenkins, you tell everyone how much I helped you.
I will, sir.
It's good old Tim.
Tim.
No, good old Tim. The whole thing.
Oh, right. Thanks, good old Tim. He waved goodbye and headed off. What an interesting dude. On days 54 to 57, I went back to the base to make some new armor out of the diamonds I had gotten. Wow, this is incredible! I also made some new tools so that I could do some renovations to the base. I added some lanterns, expanded the garden, and made sure everything was well lit. Everything was looking great. And then decided it was too late to do anything else and went to sleep. In the morning, I heard a familiar voice coming from outside.
Zozo, I need your assistance, if you please.
Caleb was calling to me from his shop. I headed over to chat with him. Hey Caleb, what else do you need?
Those bottles were great, but now I need a few more things in order for my shop to really thrive.
Okay, what do you need?
Melons.
Melons?
Yes, melons! Now off with you!
I shrugged my shoulders. Caleb was odd, but I wanted him to be happy. It seemed like an easy enough task. I went exploring for a little bit in the forest before I happened upon some melons. Easy enough. I harvested the melons, gathered some of the seeds, and headed back to the base. I brought them back to Caleb.
Perfect!
He started mixing some stuff together in the back and then came out a few minutes later with a bottle.
Here you are, Sergeant!
I looked, and it was a potion of healing. Oh wow, thanks Caleb. This will really come in handy.
Of course! Anything for you, good sir.
He gave me a half bow with an awkward salute. It was good enough. On days 58 to 62, we worked on the statue for a little while. It was starting to look almost as I had intended. So how was your first guess? Do you think you know what it is still? I was standing on the top when I saw the base being attacked down below. Hey, those look like some of Jenkins' bandits. I hurried and ran down to fight them off. Get out of our home, you good-for-nothing scoundrels. I was starting to sound a little bit like good old Tim. I was able to fight almost all of them off. A few escaped, but I wasn't too worried about them. I was able to head back to my house when I heard Izzy yelling for me.
Zozo, come quick, it's Lionel.
I ran to Lionel's house and found him hunched over on the floor. He looked really bad. Hey buddy, let's get you some help.
No, it's too late for me, Zozo. Just go get Luke for me.
Luke? Is he in his house?
No, he's the one who stabbed me. I overheard him talking to the bandits. He was in league with them all along. Jenkins wants Brink for himself so that nobody can defeat him. Apparently, they just found out about an old lady who knows exactly where to find the sword.
I couldn't believe it. Luke seemed like an okay guy. How could anyone betray their brother like that? Don't worry, Lionel. I'll get him.
Hurry, Zozo. He already left out of the back door.
Lionel took in one last breath, and then he died. I was so angry, but I didn't have time for that right now. I needed to go after Luke and find the sword before he could. On days 63 to 66, I followed some tracks leading into a woodland area. They must have been Luke's and the other bandits that got away. I tracked them for a while before coming to a small rundown cottage. The door was broken and I heard some yelling. I ran inside, drawing my sword. The two bandits were rummaging around, stealing from an old lady. She was sitting helpless in a chair. Hey, you get out of here! I quickly picked off the bandits and gave the old lady back her things.
Thank you, young man. I owe you my life.
All I need is some information, ma'am, and apparently you have it. She nodded like she understood.
The sword is under a rock formation, shaped like a hand reaching toward the sky. It is said that is how the knight, Plebus, died.
I gave her the picture that good old Tim gave me. She looked at it.
That's the one. I saw it a long time ago when I was traveling through the far east side of the desert.
She drew me a simple map that led to its location. It seemed to point into the desert.
Here you go, young man. I fear that the other young man called Luke will find it before you do. So hurry.
Will do. Thank you. I took the map and ran as fast as I could toward the line the old lady had drawn. I hoped that Luke hadn't found it, but I did hope to find him. I had a score to settle. On days 67 to 70, I arrived at the rock formation. I noticed that more bandits were there, and I saw Luke with them. They were gathered around a cart and a tunnel someone had dug. I charged at them all. How dare you hurt my friends! I swung and slashed and managed to defeat all of them, which left Luke and I alone.
Just give up, Zozo. You've lost.
I yelled in anger and charged at Luke. Lionel was your brother. How could you have betrayed him like that?
He was garbage, just like you. I'm gonna enjoy throwing you out as well.
I charged again and he smacked me really hard. I didn't realize how close I was to the opening of the tunnel. I fell down and nearly died. Luke sneered at me from above, then took off running. Coward! I looked around and noticed that the tunnel extended further into the ground. I hoped that I would find what I was looking for down there. On day 71 to 74, I walked down the tunnel for a little while before entering a large cavern. There seemed to be something in the middle of the room. I went closer to examine it and realized they had dug out all the dirt surrounding the sword. They must have taken all of it with them. They had the sword, but obviously they couldn't wield it. Maybe I did have a chance, but I was really discouraged. If Jenkins had the sword in his compound, how was I supposed to beat him? I looked around to see if I could find anything else of value. There were a few deposits of coal, but nothing more. I climbed back up through the tunnel and into the desert. It was going to be a long and painful journey home. On day 75 to 78, I headed back to the base, my head hanging low. Nick ran toward me.
So did you get Luke? Where's the sword?
Luke escaped. They took the sword, too. I didn't really feel like talking. I honestly just felt really sad.
Zozo, I have something for you, my friend.
Caleb motioned me over. I'm not really in the mood, Caleb.
Trust me, you'll like this.
He pulled out something from underneath his counter.
Since you really liked the TNT from last time, I decided to make you some more.
He gave me a whole stash of it. It didn't really cheer me up since I already had loads from before, but I figured it could be useful later. Thanks, Caleb. I started toward my house, but then decided to go into Luke's instead. Maybe he left something of use behind. As I entered, I heard some noise. I turned around as Luke stepped into the room. How did you get in here?
Like I would tell you.
Luke unsheathed his sword and we fought again. This time, I wasn't going to let him escape. We exchanged blows, but I was way stronger than him. After just a few more hits, I was able to defeat him. That's for Lionel. Just then, I noticed that Luke had dropped some stuff. It looked like a key and a map. This key must be to the back door of the compound. All of a sudden, I felt power coursing through my veins, and I leveled up into a lieutenant. I even grew a mustache and got some cool new shades. Wow, look at me! I looked at the map. It led to a section of Tundra. This must be where they were taking the sword to. Luke must have come back here to get some of his stuff before heading there. But how did he get in? I looked around and found a secret door leading down into the ground. I followed it and it opened up outside the base, hidden behind some bushes. That explains it. I went back and filled the tunnel up, making sure nobody else could get inside. On days 79 to 84, I followed the map to the Tundra. It was freezing and I didn't really like it that much, but I passed some different animals, so that was cool. I finally arrived, the freezing air whipping through my hair and mustache. It's freezing. I decided to make myself a little igloo to keep myself warm. I knew Jenkins and his bandits were coming to the Tundra. I just didn't know exactly where they would be. I guess the location on the map was incorrect? I went back outside to look around, but then I saw someone running toward me. I hurried to draw my sword, but the person stopped before they could reach me.
Wait, you're not Jenkins.
No, I'm not. Who are you?
I'm Meg. I've been following Jenkins and his crew for a while now. I'm trying to defeat him and save my family.
I'm trying to defeat him too. He's captured my friends and destroyed people that I love.
I'm sorry. Maybe we can work together.
Sounds good to me. How are you going to defeat him? She seemed uneasy.
Honestly, I wasn't exactly sure. I know that I'm a good fighter, but he is really powerful.
So you've been tracking him. Do you know where he is exactly? Meg shook her head.
I followed them, but there was a large snowstorm that came through. I lost my way, so I've been wandering around for a bit.
I invited her inside to get warm. I showed her the map and she got really excited.
Hey, there's an abandoned mine shaft around here.
She took out a pencil and drew a circle on the map.
I'll bet that's where they're headed.
Perfect, let's go! We gathered in all the warmth we could, and then we headed out to the mine shaft. On days 85 to 89, Meg and I went tromping through the snow to the abandoned mine shaft. It was so cold and snowy. We had been walking for a long time when we realized we were back at the igloo. What? How?
We must have gotten turned around in the snowstorm.
This was so frustrating.
You're wasting your time. Jenkins is long gone.
I flipped around and saw good old Tim. Hey, what are you doing here?
Ice fishing.
He didn't have a fishing pole though, so I was really confused. Okay, did you see Jenkins?
Yes, sir. Came around with a cart and headed down the mine shaft. He left though. Still had the cart with him, so whatever it was didn't work. Or did. I don't know.
He shrugged nonchalantly. He must have taken the sword back to his compound. It all felt like a big waste of time. Good old Tim must have noticed I looked a little down because he put his hand on my shoulder.
It's okay, Lieutenant. Here, this'll cheer you up.
He handed me some ingots, which I realized were netherite.
That'll make you a good and proper sword, Lieutenant. Now go save us.
Wow, thank you. Where do you keep finding all of these things?
My secret.
Good old Tim smiled and winked at me. I looked at Meg, who smiled at me, and when I looked back, good old Tim was gone. Whoa, where did he go? I was starting to think that maybe good old Tim was my guardian angel or something. Meg and I shrugged at each other and headed into the igloo for the night. It had been a long and cold couple of days, and we needed some sleep. On days 90 to 94, I invited Meg to come back to the base, and she happily agreed. We gathered some more food along the way, since we figured our friends would be hungry. Once we got there, I repaired my armor and used my smithing table to upgrade my diamond sword into a netherite sword. It was amazing! I swung it around to test it out. This isn't Brink, but it'll sure give Jenkins a run for his money. I also upgraded my armor into netherite. It was going to be tough to beat me. I went outside to show my friends. They got really excited and started cheering me on.
Yeah, Zozo!
You're our hero!
Go beat Jenkins and get our land back.
I felt really strong and hopeful, but I knew there were a few things I needed to do before I could go infiltrate Jenkins' compound. On days 95 to 97, I woke up to the farmers I had helped calling out for me. I went outside and they gave me supplies to finish the statue as a thanks. Using everything they had given me, I got right to work. It took a little bit of time, but soon I had finished the statue. Wow, it looks amazing, guys! We did a great job. No, thank you, Zozo. You've brought us all in and protected us. It's been a long time since anyone has had hope, but you've given it to us, so thank you. I looked up at the statue of Brink. I knew that I didn't have the sword with me, but the statue gave me hope that I would find it again. I knew I could beat Jenkins. It was my destiny. On day 98, I went to say goodbye to my friends before heading out to the compound. Just then, Meg approached me from behind.
Zozo, I'd like to come with you. I want to fight alongside you and find my family.
You are more than welcome to come. We crafted Meg some better armor and weapons, and then we made one last trip around the base. You take care of yourself, Lieutenant. Will do, Nick. Take care of the base for us. If anyone else needs help, let them in. For sure. I talked to Caleb. He rummaged around and gave me and Meg another potion of healing.
Now go and be triumphant, young hero.
Thanks. We stopped at Izzy last. She gave me a beautiful arrangement of flowers.
Thank you for saving me, Zozo. Now go save everyone else.
Will do. I then left Izzy's house. If you want to support the last of our journey, be sure to subscribe. The more people we have, the stronger we can become. And with that, Meg and I headed out to the compound of Jenkins. On day 99, Meg and I arrived at the compound. We snuck to the back door and used the key Luke had dropped. It worked, and we snuck up through a tunnel into a large room. There were bandits everywhere. We decided to charge in and fight them. Meg and I fought our way through all of them easily, making our way to some stairs.
Zozo, I'm going to look for my family. You go find Jenkins.
Be safe. She went down the stairs and I went up further into the mansion. There were a few more bandits on the way, which I easily took out. I finally came to a large dark red room. It was incredibly creepy. At one end of the room, there was a lava lake with a pedestal. On top of it was a sword. That has to be Brink, but it's different than what I had imagined. I started towards it, but then felt something hit me backwards. It was Jenkins! He must have been hiding behind a pillar, waiting for me. His red sword blinked.
The young police officer. Why won't you just stop bothering me?
I'm here to bring justice to those you have wronged. He laughed at me.
Sure. Do your worst, rookie.
I charged at him and our swords clashed. Then I noticed that my sword was not really effective at all. I needed to get Brink sooner rather than later.
Just give up. You're no match against me.
If that's so, then why couldn't you wield Brink? He yelled in anger.
It's just a silly, stubborn sword. I thought freezing it in the Tundra mine would work, but it didn't. But it doesn't matter. I don't need a dinky little sword when I have this.
He swung his sword around, slicing at me. My health went down, but I hurried and drank a health potion. Thank goodness for those. I was able to maneuver around Jenkins and hit him, causing him to stumble. I knew this was my chance. I ran towards Brink, reaching towards the hilt. Jenkins ran after me, ready to swing.
No!
On day 100, Brink released from the pedestal into my hands. I felt an amazing surge of power, and I transformed into a bigger and stronger police officer. I was now the chief of police. I had robotic features, and the power from me stunned Jenkins for a second. Give up, Jenkins! He growled, and I attacked him. Our swords met, and his shattered into dust.
No!
He tried to run away, but I attacked. Jenkins was defeated in one single blow. I did it! I jumped for joy. I knew I would retrieve the sword and defeat Jenkins. We could all go home now. I hurried down the stairs and helped Meg release the prisoners. They all went back to their homes, finally at peace that the land was free of Jenkins. Meg and I made our way back to the base with her and Izzy's families. We all celebrated the victory, happy to know that everyone was safe.